Right, okay, we're going to get started. Thanks everybody for joining Tracey and I today. We're going to be talking about the very topical and popular subject of internal talent mobility, internal talent recruitment. There's lots of different ways of describing it. I'm Adam Gordon. I'm co-founder and CEO at Candidate.ID. I've been in and around recruitment for 22 years. I think this month, I think it was June 1999. I started in recruitment, not having a clue what was actually involved or anything about it, but I pretty quickly learned to pick up the phone and cold call people, and then progressed into doing other things. So, Tracey, thank you very much for joining us. Why don't you give us a quick introduction to get started?
Absolutely. I'm Tracey Parsons. I'm the co-founder of WORQDRIVE, which is an internal mobility solution. We'll be talking about the concept today, not necessarily the product. And I, like Adam, have been in this industry for 20 blah, blah, blah years. And same, I started in the marketing end, so working on the agency side and working for one of the recruitment agencies. But yeah, this is such a timely topic and it's very hot. I sit here in the US, so I'm in the middle of the US. It's very gray and cloudy today. So that's what we have going on.
It is here in Scotland as well, but that is, which you might think is kind of normal, but the last few days it's been pretty much tropical here. So anybody that's joined us from Scotland, you know what I'm talking about. I've got a little bit of sunburn, in fact, but definitely not today. So I also want to just quickly give us a quick plug. You are a podcaster extraordinaire. Just tell us about that quickly.
Absolutely. Lynn Bailey and I host the what has been referred to as the Recruitment Marketing Rebelcast. But we decided that was maybe a little too narrow for how we focus, and we are going to go with the Talent Rebelcast. And you can find us on iTunes. And I think if you go to the website Talent Rebel Alliance, you can find all the pods there. So we've got a little website, and I think we've got 50 pods in the can. We've taken a little break, but we're back to re-recording tomorrow. So yeah, it's super fun.
And so what one of you is Princess Leia and the other one's Chewie, maybe?
I'm Chewie.
Okay.
Chewie's my best friend.
Right, terrific. So let's talk about internal talent mobility. Why has it become such a hot topic in the last 18 months?
Well, I have some theories. One of the theories is that people are worried that they're not protecting their people. They're worried about how they've treated them over the last 18 months, and they're worried that they're all going to just resign en masse, and they realize they have no real way to make sure they don't. And I would go back to the statement of, if you treated your people all along like they were respected and valued, you would not probably have this same feeling. But I think that there's some acknowledgement that the last 18 months has been very traumatic. Like, it's been a traumatic 18 months for workers across the globe, like literally everywhere. Everybody feels burned out. Everybody feels traumatized. And now that everybody's starting to get that bottom tier of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, okay, so we're all starting to feel a little safe, a little bit more secure, then people are starting to open up their eyes to other opportunities. And after we laid everybody off, now everybody's like, yeah, we still have business to do and we don't have the people to do it. So now we're recruiting more, right? So they're seeing this as also an opportunity to invest in their people. Like there's also this idea that we can't keep pouring more names into the top of the funnel. We're eventually going to run out of names. So there's a number of kind of perfect storm moments where everybody's talking about it. But to your point on Twitter and LinkedIn this week, what are they doing about it?
Yeah, okay. So I want to talk about a few things that you've just said there. The first is, a lot of people think that they're going to lose all their people. So, and you've given some reasons as to why they might lose all their people. So do you predict, like a lot of people do, that there is going to be a mass job shifting, like in the second half of this year?
I think there will be some. I don't think it'll be as seismic as everybody is predicting. I think it will be more thunderstorm than tsunami.
Yep.
And I believe that because I really think people are starting to look at other ways to do their life. Right? Like they're starting to look at, okay, so they're paying me. I'm not really unhappy. You know, I'm a little burnt out. But are there other ways that I can start augmenting this income to get rid of that income altogether? So they may never leave this company to go to this company. They may leave this company to go do something completely different in their lives to find a way to pay their bills.
So working for themselves, for example?
They could be working for themselves. I mean, I think that there's going to be a really big influx of Etsy pop-ups, right? So like I can see people going, I like to make things and I'm going to make things and I'm going to try and sell things. So yeah, technically working for yourself, but really becoming more thoughtful and crafty with their money and their time, because we all got a big punch in the face that time is finite.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of people have been considering not just the job they're doing, but actually how they're working, the entire profession that they're in, and the way they work, and the hours that they work, and where they do it from, and their entire lifestyle, the way that work impacts on their lifestyle.
Yeah. Like I think that we've as a globe had a career existential crisis, right? Like we're like, why do I do this? Why am I doing this? Oh my God, why am I doing this? Right? There's everybody, even I mean, and I am known as one of the most, like, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And even I went through a 6-week period where like, this is terrible. Why am I doing this? Right? So we've all experienced this and we're all experiencing it some level. And that's just the professionals, right? But when you think about the global workforce being majority hourly, or particularly in the States, this is not a career aspiration. This is a paying for my family's needs, or paying for my needs. So we have to start, they're thinking about it completely differently. They're looking at, okay, well, do I need this? How do I need it? Do I need to keep doing this, or do I do something completely different? Yeah. It's for them, it's about getting paid. Yeah. It's not about a career.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. And I think that a lot of people are probably considering that this year at the appropriate time, sometime between now and Christmas, a lot of people are just going to go, here we go, reset. And they're just going to press that button and they are going to do something else. So I think it might be more of a tsunami than a thunderstorm, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I think there's a vast amount of pent up demand for job moves. And the other thing is that a lot of people will have been sitting tight because they've been furloughed. And actually, that's not a bad thing for them. A lot of other people will have been sitting tight because their job's okay. And, going and making a move in a pandemic has clearly got much more risk attached to it.
Yep.
than doing it in other times. So I think there's something important also about, how did your employer treat you? So do you get the sense that employers have been, on the whole, treating their people in a way that they value, or the opposite over the last 15 months?
Yeah. So Alin and I actually recorded a podcast in the midst of the pandemic where I believe that I said the emperor has no clothes and he's ass up on the floor. So and your people are seeing that. The people are seeing that this is not, you're not the priority. And I think the people that do what we do, Adam, see it. I'm not sure senior leadership sees it.
Yeah. So they're going to get a rude awakening at some point. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm rolling out a piece of research on the candidate experience in partnership with PandoLogic. And it is, I can't say much about it other than it is stark. And it is something that we all should download and take to our hiring managers and our C-suite to say, this is how the job seeker feels about what we do.
Great. Sounds very, Sounds
They're not
very
here for it.
exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
no, I think so. Talk about, so I know what you mean about, we can't keep pouring names into the top of the funnel. For some of the people here who might not be so familiar with marketing concepts, can you just explain that a little bit more? What does that mean?
Yeah. So you guys have probably seen this marketing funnel, right? It looks a little bit like this. And at a certain point, you've got your candidate, your job seekers up here who they may land on Indeed, and then they see your job, and then they at some point they opt into your funnel, and at the bottom they're hired and onboarded. And I'm not a big believer in the funnel as a principle, because most funnels, if I'm doing my arm drawing correctly, most funnels end at hire, and we all know that nobody dies after they're hired, right?
Yeah,
so there's
yeah.
more to it than that.
Yeah.
And we've oversimplified this concept.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, we're going to run out of humans to be qualified and good for our jobs. So we're going to run out of new names and humans to throw into that sausage grinder of a job, of a candidate experience. So one of the reasons that I am hugely a fan of Adam and what he does is he makes that less of a funnel and more of an experience, right? So this is the value of recruitment marketing. I believe that recruitment marketing is incredibly valuable because you have to educate the right person into the right job. And if you're not educating the right person into the right job, you are going to get what I call buyer's remorse in recruiting. And then they turn over, right? Like, I think I wrote a post at the beginning of this year, there should be lemon laws in recruiting. Like, if you were sold something that you didn't actually do in your job, they should be able to get a year's salary. And of course it was tongue in cheek. But recruitment marketing is a powerful tool for you to use to educate that talent so that when they do start, they know what to expect. And then when you do get to the point when you want to promote them, they're a good fit already. Like they're working out for you. They're a star. They understand what it means to work there. They understand what the job is. So I view kind of what you do, Adam, and what I do at WORQDRIVE are the same. Like it's about educating people and elevating them into the right role.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Incidentally, on the funnel, if anybody is planning to use a funnel to visualize where their candidates are, then don't have it like that. Have it horizontal, because if it's like that, that just suggests, well, they're just going to drop down. It's dead easy. Nah, you've got to work hard to push them that way. Although I do appreciate Tracey's point about the funnel being a bit oversimplistic, because no, people don't just retire at the point that they're hired and then that's them out of the talent pool. I do understand that. Okay, so why have you moved into the area of internal talent mobility in the last couple of years? Because that wasn't something you specialized in until the last couple of years. So what's drawn you to this?
I wish it was a better story than it is. I'm a part-time software developer as well. That's, one of those little known facts, that I do write a significant amount of code. And I do that sometimes for customers. I'll fix their career site, or I'll fix their emails, or I'll fix whatever front end code. I got you. And nobody really knows that until now. Like, this is the moment when everybody's like, really? So about 7 years ago, I tackled the problem of getting a job, and I realized, and I think somebody was talking about this on a pod this week, that the act of getting somebody a job is based off of two pieces of epic BS.
Yeah.
Job description, resume. Not what the job really is. Not a really good description of what you've done, right? Okay. So we're essentially trying to create a transaction based on two pieces of bad data. Okay. Yep. So 6 or 7 years ago, me and my team sat down and we're like, what if, hang with me here, we could allow companies, recruiters to fall in love with the work product that somebody actually did, right? So instead of writing this narrative of the thing that you did, which nobody's really good at, and you can't really explain it very well, what if you just showed me a screenshot of the kick-ass Power BI data set that you created? Or what if you were an accountant and you could, like, you know, shadow out the book and you could do these things and you could visualize it. And then people could source through that. Like they could look at, oh, what's that? Oh, I need to see more of that. And you could look at somebody's work product as opposed to this narrative. So we created this thing. It was called CredHive, and CredHive lived for about 2 years. There were like 1,000 people using it, 40 employers, people were hired. But the fun fact is we couldn't figure out how to make it easy for people to visualize their work. And quite frankly, people didn't understand how to visualize their work, right? That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So we shelved the product. And then about over the course of the year after it was shelved, 2 companies approached us and wanted to buy the code base. And we thought that was weird, right? There's no revenue here. There's nothing. So we went back to our roadmap like, oh, they want internal mobility. So we said, okay, well, we have this thing. At the same time, I'm doing this completely redesigning of a customer's experience from candidate and internal, like anybody who wants a new job at this company, we're redesigning the experience to reallocate friction, right? So I'm a big believer the friction should be allocated appropriately and not just all dumped into the application. So when we did that, we saw incredible results. And all these results pointed to externally, they were converting at about 6x industry average. So they're converting about 50% of site visitors to applicants.
Yeah.
But when I looked at their internal job board, it was 11%. So their internals were 5 times less likely to apply. They were half as likely to click on apply. And so I went to the customer, I said, you have a problem here. You're not making this easy. You've not designed a system to make it egalitarian, friendly, employee focused. And quite frankly, we have some code sitting on the shelf. You want to use it. So they use it. And now everybody can use it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So repurposing something that you've built before, which has got maybe more of a tangible application today than it did then, and in something that you hadn't necessarily thought about it for in the first place.
Which was funny because if we went when we had the 2 companies approach us about acquisition, we went back to look at the roadmap, and number 3 was to give individual companies their own CredHive.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so we did do one pivot because we learned that people can't visualize. So we made it skills based.
Yeah.
That's easier and it's more searchable and people can say, yes, I have this skill. So there's some pivots there, but yeah, the core code base, 50, 70,000 lines of code was already in existence.
Great. So listen, when you've gone back to sort of reapply this to internal talent, what have you found that most employers are doing internal mobility really well, or tell me about it. What's been your experience?
So the experience usually is 1 or 2 fail points. One, they're retrofitting what they do for other audiences to their internal audience, right? So we have a website for externals, so let's have a website for internals and make them go through the same rigmarole, right? So we're retrofitting technology that was designed for somebody else for you. So that's one of the flaws that I see. And the other flaw that I see is when you very few organizations in HR tech, or very few tech implementations in HR tech is designed for the person. It's relatively not designed for it's certainly not designed for the candidate. No. It's not designed for the employee. And you can tell it's designed for compliance, or it's designed for the recruiter or the leadership.
Yeah.
And when you make the hero of the story not the user, guess what? They don't use it.
Yeah.
So that's why people struggle with this. And I actually saw this in a use case. I had we were doing a demo and they asked us, I'm like, oh, well, are you guys going to implement the ability for us to, do gigs in WORQDRIVE?
Yep.
And I said, no. And they said, why? And I said, do you have your employees clamoring at your door saying, oh my gosh, I'm either A, underutilized, so please notice that, or B, I would like to work an extra 20 hours a week for you. I said, is anybody actually like coming to you asking for that?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, no, we just want them to do that. I was like, okay, so you're designing this use case for your purpose.
Yeah.
WORQDRIVE is for your employee's purpose. So
Yeah.
if it benefits the employee, absolutely we'll do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure this benefits the employee. It benefits you, which is great. I get it.
So who are the people that should be responsible for internal mobility?
Yeah, that's messy. Because I think our initial customers, our initial customer base is really a joint agreement between TA and TM. So talent acquisition and talent management. Yep. Because when those two groups can come together and work together, magic can be made because they each know what the other one needs, right? So they know what I know what I need in talent management.
Yep.
I know what I need in talent acquisition. How do we make features and functions that are going to support both of our needs that ultimately benefit the employee and then the organization?
So I guess this is really important because if I'm working at Facebook and I am a sales executive, but I want to move into customer success, then I don't necessarily immediately have the skills to do that. There will be internal holding bay where I can go to get all the training and then move into customer success, as an example. So this is a combination of getting the job filled, but having the right skill to fill the job.
Yeah. It is. And that's one of the fun things about the WORQDRIVE product. Like when somebody gets served up with their skills,
yeah,
it's a really quick and clickable experience, but we want to know one of three things. Is it a core strength? Do you love it?
Yeah.
And do you want to grow it?
Yeah.
And then we use all that growing data to serve you up learning and development based on what you've told us you want to grow in. So that's all in your WORQDRIVE. So not only are you being matched to jobs, you're being matched to learning and development to help you get there. And then on the leadership side, they have reporting, again, anonymous. We're not showing anybody's names. That's one of the things that makes WORQDRIVE unique, is that leaders can go in and say, what are my top growth skills? Does that fill a gap that we have organizationally? And of those people who want to grow there, I would like to send them specialized training so they can use that reporting to serve up additional training outside the matching algorithm that's happening within WORQDRIVE.
I was going to ask you why. I mean, this all seems quite logical to me, but why doesn't this exist within like mainstream HR technology products? But I think you've already answered it, which is they are not designed for users; they're designed for management and compliance. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I actually was doing a demo with one of my good friends who's a very senior HR leader, and it was very early on in our development. I was like, poke holes, right? Tell me what the problem is. Tell me if this is solving the problem. And he actually said, we've made the decision to sacrifice experience.
Yep.
To be on one platform.
Yep.
I said, okay, well then as long as you are aware of it,
yeah,
right? As long as you are making that conscious decision that you are not going to hone in on a better experience for your people, then you have to understand that your outcomes are going to be what they are.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I mean, this is the same in recruitment, isn't it? I mean, we all know the platforms that TA teams use because they're kind of told to, or it's not really, or they're not paying for it out of their budget or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
What are who's doing internal talent mobility well, and why?
I'm still researching that, to be honest with you, to understand what they're doing well. I think that the organizations, and I don't unfortunately have a few big names to throw out there, but the ones that I'm seeing that are doing it well are really focused on answering that employee need. And instead of creating a career path, like we have a superstar, this superstar individual contributor, we're going to promote them to manager, even though they don't want to be a manager, they shouldn't be a manager. That why are we doing that? Because that's the progression. With companies that are removing those paradigms from their org are really showing to be more successful because their people are staying. I was talking to another org who was discussing bringing on an FTE to handhold people through career progression. I know that organizations are working hard because they're getting survey data to say they're not happy and they don't know what they're supposed to do next. So I think the organizations that are raising their hand and asking for help are the ones that are doing it well because they're acknowledging there's a problem. Like, this is how early we are in internal mobility. And
yeah.
I know there are tons of products on the market. There are tons of people that are like, yeah, we do internal mobility. I'm like, yeah, but that's an internal job board.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I appreciate that for sure. There's so many nuances in this, and it reminds me of the concept of talent pipelining. It reminds me of the concept of lots of different aspects of recruitment where people will say they're doing certain things, and they're doing like the most basic version of what that is, and there's actually a load of nuances. But when it comes down to it, I think that every element of recruitment, with the exception of assessment, every other element of recruitment is in some way about communication and experience. And you've got to design the right experience. And you get that right, you've solved a lot of things.
Right. It's like in the Candidate.ID space. I love when people say we do recruitment marketing and all they do is job alerts. I'm like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Or they don't even do that. Like, oh, we have a full solution around this. And I'm like, your solution is what?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a place to store. It's a place to store profiles and send batch and blast email. That's what it normally is. So, let's talk about best practices. What are the most important, like 5 things? So for people that are listening to you talking about this right now, what are the 5 most important tips that you need to be, other than buying WORQDRIVE? What are the 5 things they need to be doing right now?
Listen, so I say this about everything. The best practice in our world, in our collective recruitment world, is listening. Like, if we could just all take a minute to listen to our employees, to our candidates, to our rejected candidates, if we would just sit and listen and let them tell us what they need and hear it unjudgmentally, and then develop against that, we can create more wins, right? So listening is number 1. When it comes to internal mobility, it should be friction free. There should be no friction in that experience at all. It should be as simple as possible, and it should be driven by the employee, which is the 3rd best practice. If you empower your people to drive their own career, they will drive it with you. They want to stay. I'm not kidding. Everybody thinks that's crazy. Like, they don't want to stay. Of course they do. Do you know how hard it is to be the new kid at school? That's what it's like going to a new company. You're the new kid at school. So they would prefer to stay. So that's 3. 4, realize that losing people costs you a significant amount of money. So if you could take to your leadership your attrition rate and multiply it by how much that costs you and say, okay, we're losing $40 million a year on talent walking out the door. Why do we have no budget for this?
I think so many organizations don't even really know that. They don't know that it takes 6 months for the average person to start producing any profit to the organization, for example.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're actually building an ROI calculator for our website right now. So expect to see that soon. So that was 4. And I think the last one is never stop learning and iterating, right? So we can't assume that we know what somebody wants. Again, it goes back to the whole listening concept. But if we are in a thoughtful position to help people, like this is the fifth lesson, is that empathy thing, right? And we've had this discussion with a couple customers and a couple prospects that are like, yeah, I don't know if I want my employees to be able to apply with one click. I'm like, you don't trust your own people to know what's best for them. Maybe they're not the right people, right? So I think the fifth one is that empathy and trust. You have to trust them to empower them. You have to trust them so that they can trust you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, couple of quick fire questions. Is what you're advocating is the concept of like making it frictionless to move within an organization? Is that entirely opposed to the concept of like gig working and contract working and let's do lots of different jobs and building your career possibly faster by doing lots of different things? You know, is that in direct conflict with that, or is it just a different thing?
It's about this much conflict,
right?
Because here's the thing: most people move companies because they're gonna get a bigger salary bump.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But one of the things that I would like to see studied is the concept of boomerangs. Right. So how many people have left your organization, gone somewhere for more money, and then come back to your organization for even more money?
Yep.
Right. They like you, pay them. So they mostly move because we either pigeonhole them into a thing, a manager is hoarding their talent.
Yeah.
And you know what happens there? They're like, bye. Or we're not paying them appropriately.
Yeah.
We're just not serving them up the opportunities, which is one of the things that we just sometimes fail to do. At some point in the history of recruitment, somewhere along the line, somebody said it's better to get a new person.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of things to just quickly touch on there. Do you think that hiring managers are hostile to what you're offering because they love hoarding?
Yeah, some of them are. Some of them are definitely hostile. I haven't seen a sandbagger yet, but I've talked to them. And they're very uncomfortable with this concept. And every time they tell me their discomfort, I remind them that your mindset right here is going to cost you this person anyway.
Yeah.
You're going to lose them anyway. So if you can just let go, and quite frankly, there's a thing that the humans love. I love it. Control. We love control. We want to control this whole situation. It is beyond our control because the other humans are involved.
That's right. That's why recruitment's so hard, because there's humans on both sides of the transaction.
Oh, the human. I mean, I think there's 5 different human needs in the recruitment piece, right? So there's the recruiter and the sourcer and the person and the hiring manager, and it's a lot of heroes in that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We're going to come to a couple of questions that people watching this have asked about. And so one of them, we are going back a little bit here, but we're going back to much earlier on, but do you see more people going toward contract work where there is more scheduling flexibility, or more people leaving contract roles for full-time roles?
I don't have that insight. I'm going to be really honest. I don't have that information. I have guesses. But I think that the last 15, 18 months has taught us anything, is that all bets are off around what the humans are going to do next.
The humans.
They have no idea what they're doing. Everything is very, very visceral. I don't know what I'm doing 90% of the time. And I think we're getting to the point where we're all starting to admit that, right? We're all starting to admit that, yeah, none of us have any idea what we're doing, and we're all doing the best we can to not drown.
The concept of herding cats has never been more, appropriate. Okay, here's another one. This is from Terry. Isn't there a big piece here about changing the mindset of what a career is today, e.g., a portfolio career and lateral, not linear moves? And how do you best support this in a small company where there are naturally
okay.
less opportunities, where there aren't naturally the opportunities?
Yeah, and that is a fantastic question, Terry. Yes, there is a mindset shift that we're all going to have to make. And I think about what has transpired in the last 18 months, and I hate to keep leaning on that, but our values as people are changing rapidly, and our needs are changing rapidly. And so I think that there is going to be a shift around that portfolio career versus that linear lateral kind of activity versus an always up, because always up isn't always great, and we're starting to see that, and we're starting to experience that, and that's going to change. And you're raising the right question, because I've talked to companies that are 200 to 500 people, and they're like, do we need internal mobility? And I said, well, it depends on your growth trajectory. If there isn't many opportunities, then you treat an internal mobility tool as a learning and development tool, right? And you look at natural progression or natural growth, because not everybody wants to go up. Like one of my best friends in the world is the absolute best at what she does globally. There's nobody better at this person at what she does than this person. And every 6 months, do you want to be a manager? No. Do you want to be a manager? No.
Yeah.
Like every 6 months for the last 7 years is this conversation. She's like, I just want to do this thing because I'm the best in the world at it.
Yeah.
Can you compensate me appropriately? And they always do, right? So not everybody wants to be a vice president by 35. And one of our initial customers, the bulk of their workforce is hourly. The bulk of their workforce is industrial, and they are using our tool epically. One of the initial use cases was that our customer is part of the troop drawdown in Afghanistan for the US, right? So some of their employees are impacted, and they rolled out WORQDRIVE to them first, and they were being matched to other great jobs that they didn't even know about yesterday. And now they have less stress about their lives. And they've been putting in applications constantly, not the same person, obviously clicking apply 92 times, but they're starting to reallocate those resources. They're impacted. And I think that's what we need to be thinking about. If people are impacted by furlough, by layoff, are there other things that they can do in the organization? How do we make this more empathetic for them, like understanding what they're going through? Did I answer your question, Terry? I hope I did.
So if I'm a talent acquisition manager today and I want to grow my areas of responsibility, and I'm going to go to my HR director or chief people officer and say, let me look after internal talent mobility because nobody else is doing it. What's my business case? What are the 2 or 3 things I'm going to be saying to that person to get them to go, we are going to give you that?
Yeah, I think the 1 or 2 things is looking at turnover. So if you have a high attrition rate, if you have a lot of roles that are languishing unfilled, all of that costs your organization a tremendous amount of money. And if you can drop that attrition rate by a couple points and increase that time to fill by a couple days, you've saved the organization hundreds of thousands of dollars by simply knowing your numbers. So the business case, it's fun with what we do, because there is an actual outcome of what this costs an organization to lose a person that you could have kept.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We've come to the end of the interview, but thank you very much for coming and joining me, Tracey. I'm just
Absolutely.
popping the website address for your business into the chat here. It's www.workdrive.com. The K is a Q in workdrive.com. How else can people contact you? LinkedIn? Where else?
Yes. LinkedIn, my tagline is Bringer of Sunshine. And on Twitter, I am at T Parsons. So yeah, find me there, connect with me, ask me anything. I love helping people. As you can see, I don't have a problem admitting when I don't know something. So if I don't know, I'll go find the answer for you. But let me know how I can help. And Adam, thank you so much for having me on. I really, really genuinely appreciate it.
No, it's been really great to have you, Tracey. And thanks very much for joining me today. Thanks everybody for taking the time to tune in. There is one more question actually, which has just come in. Let's just quickly do it.
You got it.
Do you think the entrepreneurial mindset you were mentioning initially is increasing because of the new generations coming into the workforce, like Gen Z? And do you think that by creating these opportunities and experiences, project-based work internally could mitigate this effect?
So I do think that this is my son's generation, right? So my son is straight up Gen Z. He is not even remotely interested in figuring out what he wants to do for work for quite some time. And everybody's cool with that. In my house, they are very entrepreneurial. They do find a way to make things work. They're very clever, crafty, and creative. Literally the things that I hire for. They're curious, they're crafty, they're creative. And if organizations want somebody that's doing that, you can assign them anything as long as it piques their interest. So it doesn't have to be a gig, but I think we're going to have to rethink for this generation the types of work that we have people doing. The Economist, I think it was The Economist, it might have been The Atlantic, had a fantastic article a couple years ago, pardon my language, about bullshit jobs. So go read that article, because Gen Z thinks that almost all of the jobs are those. So we have to rethink how we're working. And then it's one of the fun things that I get to do building a company is rethink how we, the work that we do and the work that we hire people to do. It's got to be different. It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I couldn't have put that better either, what you just said, Tracey. I completely agree with all of that. So everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Tracey, all the very best, and looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.